Okay, brilliant. So, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chatter. Today I am here with William Steele, back on the show, author and designer. So, William, welcome back.
Thanks. Great to be back. Great to be back.
Yeah, great to chat to you again on the show. So, the main reason that you are here, aside from wearing out my voice that still hasn't recovered, is to talk about your brand new book, although you didn't quite write it. So,
No,
would you like to explain to the ladies and gentlemen what your new book is all about?
definitely, definitely. So I'm sure, as everyone's probably heard, or maybe not, there's been a lot of buzz around OpenAI's recent chatbot that they released. It's pretty much uh, a program that you can prompt a question to for just about anything, and you get a heck of a response. Is the best way to summarize it. It can write code, it can write stories, it can write screenplays. I mean, there's so many different applications for that natural language processing system. Um, but when I was playing with this chatbot, I asked the chatbot, which is an AI, to write a book about how it thinks AI has changed our world now and how it will change it in the future. And what I got was the results of 35 chapters, an intro and a conclusion, and then I had the chatbot elaborate on each one of those chapters. I took the rawest responses from the AI and then put it up for everybody to see. So that's kind of the joke, right? I didn't write the book. The ChatGPT wrote the book. Um, but I do believe it opens up the possibility of the discussion of a new job field that is emerging called I kind of coined it the AI curator, um, which is anybody that's in a specific industry with industry knowledge and process knowledge that can leverage AI to increase their work productivity at a minimum 5 to 10 fold. I mean, some of the rates of what people can do now is just uh, what people can do now with AI when combined, when curating, is incredible. I mean, I've seen applications where I wrote that entire, uh, book in a 1 8 hour shift. I curated it, pieced everything together, formatted it, and had it online before the end of the day, which is kind of a feat because, I mean, you and I both know we've spent several years writing one piece, one body of work at a time.
Yeah, kind of feels
So
like cheating. Are we obsolete? No.
yeah, that's kind of like the really big question. I would say no. I would say the and in the book, it's the AI actually discusses this pretty well about autonomous systems and the impact on labor. The impact it really liked to break things down by industry. AI in business, AI in education, AI in healthcare were some of the chapters that it covered. Um, But I don't think that humans are obsolete. So we're always going to need somebody to build these systems. We're always going to need somebody to be improving these systems. And of course, ethics kind of stays permanently in our department, I argue, uh, for the most part, when it comes to looking over and taking care of these systems. Another thing to note is that, like I was saying earlier about the curator, you still have to have technical industry knowledge and process knowledge to leverage these systems appropriately. Um, that's really important to note. Like an example would be if you are a programmer and you write code in a traditional C sharp system or Python system language, you are not all of a sudden, if you're a super early programmer, you're not going to be making whole social media applications out of source code by leveraging the system. But somebody that has built a social media system before can build it in a fraction of the time with a fraction of the headache now. So the more technical understanding, and humans still have to do their part with how things currently are. And if you do your part, it will exponentiate your single person capabilities to levels that you just never thought were possible before. For the entrepreneurial spirit, it really is a very wonderful time to be alive, especially if you've been doing uh, any kind of niche. Like if you're a writer, if you are, um, a marketing entity, if you are in audiobooks, in narration, in movies, in production, in entertainment. I mean, there's so many different fields it's disrupting already. The fields it will move into in the future is just it's going to be in everything. Anywhere that there's people involved and processes involved, there will be ways of leveraging these systems. But there will still need to be very talented, very qualified, and very innovative humans in those fields to leverage them appropriately. It's a tool. So, it's like that old saying, a master can do a lot with a pebble in his hand. It's kind of the thing.
Yeah.
It's about
Yeah.
the person leveraging the tool.
Yeah. Obviously, it's it's an enhancement to our abilities, just in the same way a phone is, except it's just
Hmm.
maybe a little bit more of a step up. But like it can be an extension of the human intellect in this, even in the same way a book was when they first invented, you know,
Exactly.
writing and decided to store knowledge instead of just having it in their mind. It said Plato was very against this, so
Yeah.
hilariously. um, but then, like, my question then
Oh,
becomes is like, how, oh, sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, yeah. But to your note, it will impact the labor force. And there's no doubt that there will be areas where there might have been an opportunity for more individual humans to have a role in, but I would argue that it's going to be more of a reshaping. Um, with each generation, I like to think that we're asked different things by the world, right? Maybe with previous generations, they were asked to be uh, an abundance of people so that they can produce the goods and services off of the backs of the individual was a huge metric for the performance of industry. I think that this technology is going to shape it to where we're just going to have to those that it happens with every generation. There's a shift in the paradigm, and the ones that are early adopters are rewarded. The ones that are willing to implement these new ways of thinking to their imagination to then begin playing with ideas are going to be rewarded, and they will have a better time kind of adjusting to how the labor industry shifts.
Mm,
We're still going to need people to do craftsman tasks. There will always be the desire for even if you have a great AI, let's say you built a great AI robotics joint system that could wood carve amazing pieces of art.
yeah,
So there's still going to be something about me wanting to go and purchase something from a master carpenter, that is a beautiful piece of furniture or is a beautiful, handle of an axe or something like, there's still going to be desire for craftsmanship.
I think we'll see more and
Um,
more of it, if I'm honest.
See that's something that I would not really have an argument against. There's nothing that I could say solidly to counter that right now because we're kind of almost even with GPT-2 we're kind of almost already seeing it. The there's so many more tweets, there's so many more threads, there's so many more things that there's going to be a craving for original content and that kind of transparency of the person's mind.
Yeah, yeah, but in terms of like handcrafted stuff, I think as our world becomes less and less real, we're gonna cling to the most human crafted things that we can. We're gonna, I think, probably end up trying to cling to that. It'll become, well, it already is, trendy.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. They're almost like a craftsman renaissance.
Yeah, I legit think we're gonna see that. Also, because like people will do it because it looks cool on TikTok.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Interesting.
But then, right, okay, so then you've taken this ChatGTP 3, but then you've plugged it into your own translation service. So you've like gone like another step further. So, and then the like actually having your thing read it. So like, do you want to tell people about how you've yeah taking this and then like taking it up a step.
Yeah. So what I've done is I've created almost like a three-part workflow now. So use AI to generate the initial content, curate it appropriately so that it's in a presentable format for consumption, which means just make sure that the AI is giving you enough chapters, it's elaborating enough on each subject that you still do have to go through and read it. And then I've taken that, formatted it well for a book, and then I was like, I want to make an audiobook. And how awesome would it be to showcase some of the technologies that I've been working with on other projects uh, for narration? Because AI has gotten incredibly good at speaking, which is and not just in one language, not just in English, but in many, many, many languages, like over 20 of the world's spoken languages. And it's pretty good. So I took the text and then I reformatted it again to submit it to a text to speech system, which is another natural language processing system, and had it narrated entirely. And I got all of this done in about 2.5 days. So I went from having zero book to having a full book ready for uh, publishing standards. Like it was already, because again, once this stuff comes out from the AI, it's in a format that I did almost no spell checking, almost no grammar editing, because it just comes out right the first time, which is incredible for that, because editing is a whole process, in
Yeah.
authorship. So it just skips all of that. That whole phase was done immediately. The only part that had to be edited was the intro that I wrote. um, so then I went from full published there, ready to go, rock and roll, and then I ran it through a reformatting process, submitted it, got all of the audio files back out, organized it really quick in iMovie, and then exported the whole thing, uploaded to YouTube to share with the world. And that was all done in like 2.5 days. And I've repeated the same process now with 3 other languages. And with the other languages, I'm having a translator kind of go over them, just because I don't want, again, there is a part of curation that's necessary, because I don't want to just be propagating garbage. Like if the AI malfunctioned at some certain step in another language and I just threw it out there because and I don't understand the language, it would be bad responsibility of the curator in that instance, because I would also be misrepresenting the capabilities of the technology.
Mm. Yeah.
So once you do that, you just run through the same process. And yeah, if there's anyone out there that wants me to do it for them, I offer it as a paid service too.
Doesn't this feel? I was right, because my first thought while you were talking this was like, oh, I could totally curate a book like this. This would be fucking banging. And then I was like, isn't it kind of cheating? Like, do
Yes.
you feel like it's cheating? Like, obviously, this first one that you've done is for like that was an experiment, and that was like to see what like an artificial intelligence says about artificial intelligence. Like, it's a really cool
Hmm.
thought experiment. But like
Yeah,
beyond
and
that,
that's
does it feel like
that's more.
cheating?
Yes. So that is a really good question, and that thing is going to be a hot topic for the next couple of years. A lot of people are going to be discussing that, going back and forth. For me, with this one, my goal wasn't. And again, I think also this has to do with more about where we're just headed as a society. We're headed to a society where like your reason for doing something is almost as important as what you're doing. So like with my instance, my real goal, I'm not trying to make a bunch of money, making a bunch of audiobooks made by a bunch of AI, a whole shebang. No, my goal was I want to spend the time, do the work to show people what is exactly possible by leveraging this system. So I was very transparent about what exactly I put in at each prompt, how I did every single part of the steps of the process, and exactly how long it took me, which is a huge part to the whole idea, right? I wanted to show people in less than about 10 days of working time, I was able to produce a book that was pretty an interesting idea, AI, writing about AI, which is kind of funny. Um, and also really crazy too, because just so you guys know, there is one chapter it wrote about the singularity, and it chose that chapter by itself, which was a little of a bit of an
What?
experience when you're reading it. Yeah.
No. Well, I mean, it is.
Once you understand how it works, it makes sense.
Yeah. No. Right. That was my second thought. My first thought was like, holy shit, we're fucked. And then my second thought was like, no, hang on. If you're gonna write a book about, if it's gonna just like write a book about artificial intelligence, the singularity has to be there. So that's
Hmm.
it's less freaky than I initially thought.
Yeah, yeah, and it's good. I mean, like again, it that's what it's there for. So those small discoveries that you have in the book, because there's a lot of them, you'll be like, wow, like it gives you a clear understanding almost of how how the program is working, and just as much as the beauty of leveraging it. So
So right, this
yeah.
brings us kind of on to the chat that Joe Rogan and Brett Weinstein had about this, because so his for people that haven't seen the interview, it's like a 15-minute clip or whatever of it on YouTube that they talk a bit about it, and I'm not sure how much of it is like their full conversation with it because I just listened to the whole podcast. But anyway, basically his point is that we don't understand consciousness, so therefore what can we look at to understand how like a baby goes from like an autonomous sort of thing that can like sit up, maybe move its head, cry, and eat, and how it goes from that to like something that can fully articulate sentences and is a conscious and like aware human being. And it's literally through trial and error of like making sounds. So like when a baby's really young, this is really cool. When a baby's really young, they can make all of the sounds of the range of the human like potential within our voice box and within our throats and tongues. But as they get older and they learn like whatever language or languages they grow up with, their range of like noises and sounds they can make shrinks because of the language that they're learning and speaking on a daily basis. So babies can make more noises and different sounds than like an adult could possibly. So that always blows my mind. But anyway, Brett Weinstein basically says that like one of the ways in which we understand how babies learn is by making all these sounds until they're able to copy basically what the adults are saying in like first in short words and then longer words, and then slowly as they repeat the word, then they slowly associate meaning with it as their understanding of the world grows and the number of words they can say like expands, and they can make all these associations with it, and that's how they become conscious. And he was basically saying that the way that ChatGPT works is that it's been through trial and error, right? It's been through
It's
just
learning.
it's learning, but it's only learning what the next word should be based on probabilities and like all of the different through all the different billion or whatever fucking simulations it went through and iterations in order to get to where it is now, right? But it's only learning in the same way that a human has learned, just by like basically making the words in the right order until people say it makes sense. But like, does it really understand what it's saying? Do you think do you think there's like a
So
genuine understanding, or is it just really good at guessing the right
it's
next
really good
word?
at prediction. It's really good at prediction. So
Yeah.
that's where it helps. The fear of the singularity. Sorry, my headphones are getting low. Let me take them off. Are you there, Josh? Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So that's where it really helps alleviate fear of the singularity and kind of the scares, is when you have a firmer understanding of exactly how neural networks work, like how weights and biases work, kind of what's going on in the background, because you do understand that it's with a baby, there is multi-dimensional stimulus. So they are learning in a similar fashion to how ChatGPT is learning, but you can't detract from the association with words when you smell, when you taste, when you feel things, when you hear things. These senses and combination of those senses are something that is absolutely not captured by a neural net. It's all through natural language. It's all through text. It's all through those mechanisms. So because its constraints are so small, it's losing a lot of the dimension of it's losing a lot of dimensions to experience. So do I think that maybe one day we can integrate some of these sensory experiences maybe into a larger AGI yeah, artificial general intelligence? I think so. There are already technologies that are trying to, and this is where we're going to get into an interesting area where multiple deep fields will start to reconnect in ways that we just weren't predicting. And I'm talking about one example of the robotic eye. We're trying to right now in the biomedical community and the robotics community, there's a lot of incentivization to being able to recreate eyesight for people, right? It's always been a thing. So if we're able to start piecing those things together, maybe olfactory senses are short, are shoddy in a particular individual, and they want to get them better, so they create a robotic interface for that. If we get to the point where we're able to start introducing those multi-sensory stimuli into a neural net that's advanced enough to make these connections between that degree of stimulus and the objective observable reality, then we're getting into an area, I think, where we really will be able to start investigating the nature of consciousness. And at what point does the switch flip? At what point do you stop being a boobling, babbling baby and do you start questioning your life and death? You know, for some people, it happens at certain ages. I've had discussions where I knew, you know, a handful of people that were like, I remember the exact moment when I realized I was going to die one day. I remember the exact time when I was like 8 years old and I really contemplated my death, and then like my life changed and I had a huge fundamental shift in how I operated day to day. So those are critical, you know, points in a conscious agent's timeline that if we're able to replicate some of those sensory experiences that I discussed earlier, there might be room for investigating, you know, some of the nuances in a very interesting way in the future.
Yeah, I mean, one of the, but then, okay, so do you think those, do you think the five senses then, in a sense, are necessary for consciousness? Like, you don't think that there's a way that so like you don't buy Brett Weinstein's argument then that we could be accidentally creating consciousness through Chat GPT because at what point after how many billions and billions and trillions of interactions and iterations of itself, like how do we know we don't create something conscious?
So I think it's an issue of complexity. I think trillions not enough.
Okay.
I think when
But
you
like you don't
add
think we're gonna
senses,
continue to like before we even
we can
get to
add
the
more.
sense bit, but like you don't think
We
we're gonna
can
get better with this? But we're gonna have
for sure.
like loads and loads and like as computing power goes through the roof, you don't think like this is the thing that's gonna get pumped like fuck.
I don't think maybe some more advanced, more with more data points of interpretation. It might be a later iteration of GPT, potentially, but I think that the complexity that needs to occur for consciousness to really click off in its organic way is it's such a high level of complexity that it will be a while before we discover enough combinations of technology to replicate a system capable of comprehension of that complexity. The brain is able to comprehend such vast amounts of complexity in such a dynamic way that I don't think that with just one natural language processing model, we will be able to scrape the surface of what the complexity needed will be for us to really begin the discussion of all right, now we're playing in territory where there very likely could be consciousness, real conscious agents arising from our experiments here.
let's oh damn it. I was gonna say let's put it in ChatGTP.
Oh yeah.
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 Discuss
What
whether
what's the level?
ChatGPT could become conscious.
Yeah.
But
Ask it
it's
what's
at
the
capacity right now, apparently.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I have a login. Do you want me to log in?
Yeah, go for it, man.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
We've got a sudden influx of users trying to do it. We're all set. Let's see if this is a problem.
Thankfully, I made a login a while ago.
This is
All
amazing. I
right.
really want people to see what's going on the screen right now. It says, write a guided meditation about the status of ChatGPT. As you read this message, please take a moment to pause and breathe. Notice the sensations in your body and the rhythm of your breath. Remind yourself that you're not alone in wanting to try out ChatGPT. Many others are interested in it as well. Be patient and know that the website is doing its best to accommodate everyone. Trust that the right time for you to try ChatGPT will come. In the meantime, continue to focus on your breath and stay present in the moment.
It's good. It's really good. I have the playground for DaVinci 003 pulled up. Do you wanna I can't share my screen.
Ah, that's all right.
Okay.
Let's just go for what did we say? Um, discuss whether ChatGPT could become
I'll ask it.
conscious.
Do you think Chat GPT will one day become a conscious agent?
Takes a few minutes sometimes, right?
Let's see what it says. Wow, that was a really quick and easy response. No, ChatGPT is a text generating system and does not have the capacity to become a conscious agent. Let's ask it a better question.
That's
Let's ask
exactly
it.
what it would say if it was already planning its
it's
escape.
it's covering its tail.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it would say.
Do you think AI will one day be able to handle the complexity necessary to become a conscious agent? All right.
Man, if you've not already tried this stuff, you have to. It's whey isolate protein. It's this powder, and it just comes out like fruit juice. No more of this like heavy shit do you have to deal with. You're just like, oh come on, it's not done yet. No. This is just like fucking fruit juice. It's
Nice.
amazing.
It's kind of like
Whey isolate.
really nice. I gotta check that out.
Um, did you get anything good?
It is difficult to accurately predict the future of AI and its ability to become a conscious agent. There are many factors that affect AI's ability to handle the complexity necessary to become a conscious agent, including technological advancements, data availability, and ethical considerations. It is possible that AI may one day be able to handle the complexity necessary for such a feat as it is further developed, but it is not certain. Interesting.
Mm, it's just a little too reassuring. Are you one of these guys that's like pure afraid of AI? Or are you not really? You're quite like we're going to use it for the betterment of humanity.
I think there's definitely reason for concern. Um, I don't think that right now I'm too concerned because I know that these natural language systems, I don't think it's just fundamentally what I think about what's necessary for consciousness to arise. I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. Now, if we started getting close to it, like if the robotic eye was complete and Neuralink really started having some serious data on human prototypes, um, and like somebody makes an artificial nose and somebody makes an artificial tongue and artificial ears and tympanic membranes and stuff, then I'm going to be like, all right, it's happening soon. It's just a matter of who has the money to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Tell you, you're a good person to ask this, actually. I was having this discussion with a friend the other day about Neuralink. And he was like, would you ever get it? And I said, I don't think so. Um, But then and then we were talking about, if is, is it the mark of the beast? Is this the end of the world? If that really happens, it's like, is that the end of like humans as we know it? And then I basically say I don't think we have to worry about it in our lifetime, because I think it's way more difficult to interface with the human brain than we are making it out to be. Because, and I'm not convinced that this idea that you can get like, it's like, oh, all you got to do is increase the bandwidth, right? Because like, surely our brains are evolved in that, like, we already have way too much input, right? We
Yeah.
already have like way too much input to deal with. So we have to focus our attention on whatever things that we're doing, like if we're making a cup of tea, or like, I don't know, whatever we're looking at or whatever we're thinking about. Like, we have to focus like very deliberately in many ways our attention. Like, so how is expanding the bandwidth gonna change the way our brains function? Because surely the issue is our brain's ability to process information. It's not the bandwidth. And that's a completely different issue that I believe is way more complex than we're even able to understand. Like, what do you think?
So again, I am no expert in, brain neural science, but there are certain things I think I can make safe assumptions on. Um, One is I 100% agree with you. 100% agree that it is there is a uh, phenomena that all of our brains have, that we turn off a certain amount of noise automatically. We have to filter things, because if not, we would be in paralysis for our ability to be aware of everything that's going on around us, especially if it's a stimulating environment. Let's take a natural environment, for example, like the jungle, where there are other creatures, other noises, tons of noises. It's alive all the time, in these natural ecosystems. It is very alive. Um, so we adapted, and we got this ability to kind of like hone, like you said, make a cup of tea, focus on things, and maybe you're not hearing the neighbors loud banging next door with the, squirrels jumping around in the bush outside. You're able to filter these things. Uh, I think Neuralink will show a dramatic increase in schizophrenia. I think it will show a dramatic increase in bipolar disorder. I think that a lot of these mental health disorders that we're already showing, just through the extension of social media, which is a connection to the larger system, conscious system. We're starting to if you think about people as little spheres in a very dense world, just floating around, bumping into each other, the membrane of which we each have, our kind of armor that keeps us, is starting to melt. We're becoming connected more. Our bubbles are holding on to each other, almost like making atoms and stuff. Um, these these phenomena are very recorded. We've never had this many people probably have mental illness as we have in recorded human history as we do right now.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to bet that right now the state of the mental health of humanity has never been this. There's never been a minority that is so bad with mental health as it is currently. And I'm talking schizophrenia. I'm talking severe bipolar, manic depressive disorder. Um, uh, and I think that these are directly related to social media.
I would
You know,
say maybe post World War II with PTSD.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, that would probably, yeah, that's a really good one too.
But
But we are
yeah.
also experiencing crazy things. Like, did you see TikTok cause mass Tourette's?
No.
We're having mass psychosis occur from social media on these, because the minds of the younger generation are so malleable. This is crazy, man. You should check this out sometime. But and so should the audience. There was a documented case of mass psychosis of kids having Tourette's, repeating what a content creator was saying, going into the hospital, claiming to have uncontrollable urges to blurt these things that the same creator was blurting, and it happened all over the world in many cultures.
Forbes says it's not true, man.
It's not true.
No, Forbes says
The mass psychosis is not the case.
yeah. What do they say? They say No, TikTok is not causing Tourette's syndrome. Uh, blah, blah, blah. This receives an urgent, immediate rebuttal by a group of academics who rightly pointed out many flaws in the paper's arguments. But it is Forbes, you know.
Well,
Who owns Forbes? Fucking China, probably.
it's yeah. So it's one thing. Well, that's just one case instance of a more
No, yeah.
extreme.
But no, I would believe it. I would 100% believe that. Sorry, I'm just fucking around here.
Yeah, no, and it's good that you're checking the information sources because again, it was very brief. The when I went over
95% Chinese owned. Of course, they're denying Tourette's is caused by TikTok.
it. Now, to be clear, I don't think it's
Oh,
causing Tourette's. It's causing mass psychosis, which is a different thing entirely. So they're not entirely wrong by saying it doesn't cause Tourette's because it doesn't cause Tourette's. It causes people to think they have Tourette's, which
yeah.
is arguably worse.
Yeah. I mean, it's a bit potato if they're displaying the symptoms,
Yeah,
even though it's
definitely.
temporary. It's technically what it is.
And it's more just the fact that social media is wreaking havoc in these ways that's an obvious, characteristic or a manifestation of the ill state of the collective individuals. But in what other ways is it affecting us that are not as so obvious? And so I think Neuralink's going to make that way worse. I think that the people that will succeed in these trials are going to be people that are already really good at keeping their armor on for who they are, what they do, how their reality works. I think you're going to have to almost be I think the archetype of individual that would do best with Neuralink would be a monk.
Yeah, quite
As funny
possibly.
as funny as that sounds, it's a technology, and I wrote this in my first science fiction book. This was kind of a theme. Technology is just a mirror. It is just a mirror. In most instances, it is reflecting directly back at you what you already are getting. And so if you don't take enough looks at yourself in the mirror often, and you're not straight up with yourself, and you're not going in challenging, and you're not strong minded, you don't have a really good sense of what's going on in your mind and how things work and how to make things better. Those are just some of the I'm glazing over how to have a strong mind and self-mastery, but if you have that, I think that then Neuralink will be incredibly useful. A technology like that where you have instant access to a lot of information, but your nozzle, your mechanism for discernment is very, very sharp. Oh my goodness, you're gonna have a great time. But
Mm.
for a lot of people, that is not the case. I myself, that is not the case. I would not want Neuralink in my brain because I'm not a monk.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of other things that I think are probably driving the rise in mental health problems. So like, probably exercise, and that's not even a joke. Like
Yes,
playing
yes,
outside. Um,
those are basic things.
yeah, social connection, like actually talking to people, like face to face. Although those are both kind of drawn from the excessive social media use. The other two that aren't really at all. One is arguable, but I think is probably contributing is the petrochemicals and microplastics in our everything supply. And
Definitely.
the other thing, which actually transitions us quite nicely to something we were talking about before we started, uh, lack of religion, I think, is probably baked up in there too. Um, because if humans are the pinnacle, then we are all gods, and holy shit, we're fucking we're fucking shit if we are the gods. So so I reckon that's probably fucking with a lot of people's brains,
Yep. Oh yeah.
and just that lack of structure and like I don't know sense of meaning. Probably really, I would say, would help some people at least. Anyway, we're definitely did
Without
and does.
without religion, there is a lot of work to be done. Without religion, the individual must lift heavily for a long time to be able to get to a point of reasonable framework.
Yeah, yeah, and I just don't think many people can handle that. I
No,
think
no,
there's very
no,
few of us, I
no,
think, that can actually handle that if we really
no, yeah,
really thought about it.
yes, definitely, yeah. And I don't think very many people live lives that allow for that much. That's a lot of thinking.
It's
I
a
mean,
lot of thinking.
you're like Aristotle, man. You're just lounging around the city thinking all day, hanging out, eating some grapes.
Yeah, yeah, some very wise
No,
people, and theoretically a higher being, or they did all that shit for us.
yep.
Just got to
Oh yeah,
figure
yep.
it out. I'm just looking to
And
see
it's
if I still have this.
religion is super important, and I would agree with you. I think petrochemicals are an issue, and all the vegetable oils and seed oils. I mean, the more informed you become,
Yeah, the
that's the crazy
scarier the
thing
world
about it.
gets.
The more informed you become, the much more you want to kind of just keep to yourself and grow your own stuff and
Yeah,
uh, really just focus on getting the basics cleaned out.
yeah,
It's 100% the case. And I would agree. I would agree. I think the lack of religion, and we could kind of segue into those forces I mentioned before we started the podcast. So
yeah,
one
yeah,
of the most interesting things that I've been investigating for probably since 2014, right after high school when I got into college and really started to try to explore, was there's an idea that we have individual consciousness and that there is more and more recently acceptance of this idea of a mass consciousness, or kind of this force that is the collective uh, consciousness of humanity, of all agents, and it kind of binds all of the strings of life together, the tree of life, God, universality. But there is this funny force that we all have, our egos. And I was exploring the idea of the existence of the counterforce to mass consciousness. So, if in humans, our main kind of experiential duality that we have is there's this higher self, this conscious self connected to everything and is everything. Uh, and then there is our lower self, our egoic self. And I was exploring the idea of a mass ego, a force whose aims are usually to hide things, to deceive, um, and to naturally create challenge. There has to be tension for there to be motion, almost in every great, monolithic, huge character of humanity. And I'm talking like Marcus Aurelius and King Alexander, the President Lincoln, President Washington, great leaders, Martin Luther King, all of these guys and gals and everyone I didn't mention. There is without a doubt a main reason that they were driven to do the things that they did in their life, and it's tension. It's internal tension between their egoic self and their conscious self. I would argue that our experience is always trying to keep this tension in balance. That's what the Taoists refer to. The Buddhists refer to, right? When they say you must live in balance, walk in balance. The yin and the yang. There's balance there, equality, male and female. There's all these dualities and mechanisms. But I've always wondered, how would I explain where everything comes from? Like I was watching a video where a really, really great physicist began to discuss these ideas that at the frontier of physics, we're learning that space and time is dead, that there are forces more fundamental to our reality and how it's constructed that are not so obvious, that construct everything we see. And in that baser framework of forces, time and space are not fundamental. That because of these forces, they give birth to time and space. That there needs to be a larger circle surrounding quantum physics and time and space and all of these other physics that we have. There is a bigger circle that gives this constraints and meaning. And they're discovering really crazy things at the frontier of physics. These beautiful pieces of geometry that are, one of them is known as the amplituhedron. And they're using these geometric
I forget the exact detail that they called the geometric object. It's a class of geometry. But they're using these objects to extrapolate incredible mathematics at the frontier of particle physics. So when particles collide, they're able the math necessary to do the computations necessary to calculate trajectory of all of these gluons and subatomic particles and particles. The math is huge. I mean, you're talking crazy numbers, crazy amounts of computation, supercomputer stuff. They are discovering ways of using these geometric objects that exist beyond space-time parameters to get these crazy computations down to like one equation. What used to take 50 to 60 pages of computation is taking one equation. They're able to simplify mathematics. And what they're saying is that at this level of what they're doing in the frontier physics, it's because they are not taking space and time as a fundamental force in their mathematics. And what they're able to do is they're able to actually use this math to reflect things back into frameworks that do require space and time, and they're accurate. So not only are they correct in the math that they're doing in this new frontier and domain, but it's reflecting back into the domain of math that requires space and time, and it's accurate. So what they're pretty much saying to me was, there is a force greater than space and time that must be something that permeates at the fundamentalist levels. And then I began to think, why is it that it's not so painfully obvious? Like, I feel like we've been experiencing things, and why is it like it's being hidden from plain sight? And then I realized, what is the goal of the ego? The goal of the ego is to lie, it's to deceive, it's to hide, it's to be greedy. It's all the worst parts of our humanity. And again, if art has taught us anything, and art is stories, it's this huge domain of things, and we'll kind of get into where I think art comes from and why it's so important to humanity. But if art, just take this and roll with me, if art is a tool that mass consciousness uses to guide humanity to the best possible future reality, to help us, and that's why we cling to it so firmly, because it's an amazing tool that's helped the development of our conscious agent of the universe grow in the direction it needs to be the best possible reality, whatever that means. Then you can bet that mass ego is trying to hide those things. That its natural fundamental tendency is to just hide things and to deceive things, and you can even see it almost reflected in media, in the news today. Like, what is the goal of these egoically driven agents, of these corporations whose tendencies loan them to egoic nature, because it is a suppression of freedom, because people are not liberated in being themselves and pursuing the things they want to do, and they get caught in these jobs, and these corporations are extensions of the collective of which they are comprised of, and some of these are very unhealthy collectives. Why do you think that the financial institutions, some of the most unhealthy organizations, are the worst at deceiving and hiding things? They're the worst because it's natural, because this force of mass ego is a dream in objective reality. I go as far as to say everything in our reality comes from these things, even ideas that we think. And this is where I get to an idea where I can illustrate it. If string theory is the case and everything is just a vibration, let's just say that I'm giving an arbitrary set of vibrations from 0 to 100. And it's funny because we say this already. And let's say you vibrate at a low frequency, 0 to 49. You are more likely to be a conduit for ideas that come from mass ego than you are likely to be a conduit for ideas that come from mass consciousness. If you are vibrating at 50 to 100, you are higher self, higher you, conscious you. You are conduit for forces coming from mass consciousness. And there's this constant tension in our world about people and their lives, because you are what you surround yourself with. You are what you eat. You are what you do. You are what you drink. You are what you say. You are what you think. If these are all collective ideas that were born, because again, it all started from a seed. And now the world's complexity is huge. So there's all these ideas that kind of fall in one or the other. And if you are surrounding yourself with more objects, more agents, more ideas, more things, more music, more vibrational understanding that comes from mass ego, you're more likely to produce things that come from mass ego. But the beautiful thing is that conscious agents and humans, we can go wherever we want on that spectrum at any time. That's why a great man can become a terrible man. A terrible man can become a great man. Within us lives this amazing infinite potential because we can go where we want to go. Though, are the ideas we're having original? I argue no. But the path in which you string them together along in your life is an original thing. And you get to do that. You get to choose that.
Yeah. I want to, before I respond, I've got a clip I want to show you.
I thought about music.
Hang on. It's from Rogan, predictably. It's Jordan Peterson talking about music, and I feel it's a very, very good thing to show you right now. I just have to make sure that everyone can see all the things. No, not that.
And again, these are ideas I've been investigating for a while, but it never clicked to me. And I thought it would be funny enough that mass ego, of course, its nature is to not be so obvious. But I think that force is there. And I think that those are the two forces from which everything in existence might stem from. Like, that's the best possible case I've come along so far to kind of explain everything that I've experienced and what I think might be true or not true.
Why don't you want to show on the screen share, you piece of... Sorry, I'm just battling with my laptop. Just ignore me.
I thought about...
Aha, I figured out how to do it. Right, excellent. So, no, that's not what we want. Why are you that size now? There we go, okay. So, now I have to screen share with you. So, see it. Share sound. Okay. Can you now see this?
Yes.
Wonderful, okay. Oh, your video's disappeared because of it. Oh, well. Right.
Music.
Let me find the right bit.
Of anything.
Right, but it represents...
There's unhappy music and there's happy music,
Yeah.
minor keys and major.
And
definitely, it plays on emotion.
I see what you're saying. But you said
Right.
representation.
Yeah. And it isn't one pattern. It's
That's already
multiple.
here it is.
duality right there.
I was thinking more like a picture of
I
an
see what you're
actual
saying.
thing. Okay,
Okay,
so,
so-
but what?
So
So
here's the
let's
bit. They were
think
talking
about what
about,
music is.
yeah.
First of all, it's a pattern. So non-pattern music is noise. It's a pattern. But then it isn't one pattern. It's multiple patterns layered on top of one another in a harmonious manner and in a manner that indicates, in some sense, communication between all the patterned layers because they have to go together. And so what's the world? Well, the world's made of objects. It's like, no, it's not. It's made of patterns. So music is just like the world because the world's made of patterns. And then music has layered patterns that are all moving together in a harmonious manner. And so what do you do when you hear that, especially if it's got a beat? Well, then you move your body. And you want to, right? The music calls to you to move your body. So now you're moving your body in sync with the patterned layers of the world. Well, that's meaning. And then there's more to it. So that's so cool. Is music is an analog of the structure of existence itself. And it calls to you to take part in that. And then, so maybe you dance by yourself, or maybe even better, you dance with someone else. And so then you both bring your bodies into this patterned relationship with this multi-layer harmony together in a spontaneous way, indicating that you can both play and are therefore potentially trustworthy future mates. That's unbelievably cool. And birds dance. It's not just human beings, you know. So this is a deep thing.
It's almost a live celebration of existence. It's like existence celebrating itself, and that's what dancing is.
Yeah, right. This is so fucking beautiful, right? People can say whatever they want about some of his other opinions, man, but like when he's talking about this, it's some of the most universal shit ever. But like,
that's spot on.
Yeah, but this gets better. There's like 2 minutes left of this clip, max, and it's really important to the rest of the discussion we're gonna have. So yeah, let's just watch it because it like I want to draw on a couple things here, and he'll do a better job of explaining it than I will.
And then music does something else too. It puts you on the border between chaos and order, because a boring song does exactly what you expect it to do and gets dull very quickly. And an unlistenable song is so random you can't follow it. And so what you want is predictability with a leaven of unpredictability. And then that puts you right on the edge. That's the zone of proximal development. Vygotsky discovered that.
Like a Hendrix song.
Yeah, like a Hendrix song. Well, any great music does
Yeah,
that.
but I mean, Hendrix has so much creativity inside the structure of the song because there's riffs that he'll do.
Right. And everyone
Right.
loves, oh man, I went to this bar in Nashville. This band was playing Kelly's Heroes, a great guitarist, the best guitarist I've ever seen. And they were playing old country music with a heavy blues rock twist. So they do this great version of Ghost Riders in the Sky. It's 15 minutes long. And this brilliant guitarist just goes way out on a limb. And everybody in the crowd, it was so fun to be there. They're just thrilled to death because they're watching this man doing the same thing that surfers do. He's like dancing on the edge of chaos and order in this virtuosic manner. And everyone is so taken by that it just lifts them out of the normality of their existence. You know, you see this joy just transfuse them. And that's because they got an intimation of genuine meaning. And it's not amenable to rational criticism, which is the thing that I thought that struck me as so miraculous about music, and why it has this element of salvation. It's like it puts you directly in touch with the meaning that sustains you in life directly, and it shows you what that would be, which is something like to observe the harmonious interplay of the patterns of being stacked on top of one another, and then to bring yourself into alignment with that, which is what yogis strive to do and what disciplined athletes strive to do and what we celebrate in athletics. And it's all a reflection of the same thing. And that's real.
I guess that's what I meant.
Yeah, right. So then, okay, so I want to take this then one step further, right? Because then, I believe, like, beyond that is that like, maybe the reason that, like, what you were talking about, how like musicians or creatives just, like, they feel like things are just given to them. They're fucking picking them out of nothing, and all of a sudden it's there. That they're just like the vessel through which it happens, right? And I think that's and that takes the. It's like similar to that, like, captivation that you have when you're watching like you described, like a guitarist, like, out there, like, absolutely going for it on a solo, like, just riding the fucking wave of the edge. And like, why, like, time can go like that. You can be watching him for 10 minutes and you won't even notice because you're so, like, in that moment that you, like, it feels not real in a sense, in the same way that, like, these artists writing, like, songs that just come from nowhere just doesn't feel real, right? And I've had it happen to me. Like, I've sat down with the guitar and not, like, 10 minutes later I'm like, hang on, I have an entire song here, what the fuck just happened? I'm not saying it's a number one or anything, but, like, it's happened to me too. And like, I was talking to a friend about how I believe that the reason that creation itself feels so, like, it feels like we transcend our bodies itself is because that's, like, the closest you can possibly come to imitating, like, our creator being, if he exists. But, like, it's the closest you can come to, like, imitating that, because, like, that, yeah, he made everything. So, like, that's the reason for that, like, that feeling that you're talking about, that you don't even write it, because it's, like, so beyond what we as humans are usually capable of.
Yeah. 100%. It's there's so many names that I think that thing goes by. I think there's so many names because, and I think it's not unintentional that there's so many names that force goes by. It's just the nature of that force is that it is, like, it is love, it is mass consciousness, it is God, it is you, it is everything. Like, there's reason why, like, there's so many things that could be pointed back to that phenomena, that force, and it's because of, like, the potency of it. Like you said, like, you channel it and you make music. And it comes straight to you. Sometimes you channel it and you write. You know, sometimes you channel it and you're having a conversation, like right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
right.
so it's like it's incredible to be someone that experiences the nature of being a conduit for that force often. It is an incredible. It's almost a discovery the first time it happens. You know, I don't know when it was for you. I know for me, it was like the first time I wrote a serious poem was like when I was like, that was not me. That did not come from me. at all whatsoever. That was crazy. What just happened there? And it wasn't like my first reaction was that was crazy. What just happened there? I just wanted to do it again. Like you want to just keep kind of chasing the art, chasing the creative process. Not everyone has gotten to that point though. I really feel like I wish more people have given themselves that chance, because it would change their lives drastically, like the direction of which they would go, because there's now this voice that kind of speaks to them that's like, you could be doing this, you could, what do you think about this? What about this idea? It's like almost like once the link between you and mass consciousness has been made once, it can be reinforced. It's like neurons in a brain. It's like we have tendencies to think certain patterns because they're just, those electrical impulses are ridden so often.
Yeah. And I guess that's the same as like, the people when they, like you were talking about the manga artists before, it's like flexing a muscle. It's
Dude,
like,
they're going back and forth all the time. Those mangekis, yeah.
yeah. But it's also like the person I always think of with this is Paul McCartney and John Lennon as well. But like they, like especially McCartney was religious with his like writing all the time.
Roger Waters, Paul McCartney, those guys were some of the most beautiful writers in all of music history.
Yeah, but then you get to the point where, and this motherfucker, like, how the fuck he did this is beyond me. You get to the point where you're so tapped in, like, he fucking wrote Let It Be and The Long and Winding Road in the same day. Like, that's not fair. Like who the fuck finishes Let It Be and goes, oh well, I mean, I reckon I could probably do a bit better than this, like I got more in the tank. Yeah, exactly. Like I could do a wee bit more today. Like you finish Let It Be and go, well,
because he loved it, man. That's just what he loves. That's why, and again, it's why it became Let It Be. That's why I would 100% think that the reason why we all love it so much, why when you listen to Let It Be, it's just like, this speaks to me in ways I don't even comprehend yet. This speaks to my current self and some degree of my future self and some degree of my past self, all in the same experience. Because that's what consciousness is. These forces of consciousness and mass ego, they are timeless forces. So they do speak to you in multiple ways like that, if they're really potent.
Yeah. And if they're the forces that are operating at the quantum level, like you were discussing,
but beyond that,
then they are timeless. They don't adhere to time and space.
So that's what I'm trying to say. Once you start looking at it this way, like it becomes so crazy. It like opens up a whole new way of looking at all of these things you experience, because the forces that gave birth to time and space. The constraints of time and space exist because the challenge that mass ego presents mass consciousness. It's in that tension that there even is this new dimension of time.
Oh man, you give me a lot to think about, but we have blasted past an hour and it's also getting kind of late here.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I really, really want to thank you. Always amazing to chat to you. Things you want to plug before we finish?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at will_e_Steele. My website, williamsteele.info, has like all of these kind of updates on these mental investigations that I have ongoing, like some of the stuff me and Josh just spoke about, my most recent publications for my books, things like that. And my YouTube channel, YouTube, I think it's /William.Steele. My handle is at William.Steele. So thank you so much for having me on, Josh. Thanks for being willing to listen to some of my my out there ideas. And again, it feels like they're not falling on deaf ears. It feels like some of these things might be some stuff that resonates with you too, which I really appreciate.
100%, man. I'll always listen to your wild and out there ideas. Always entertaining, never ever boring. Yeah, man. Thanks very much.
Yep. Thanks, Josh. I'll see you.